Hey, yo, what's the deal? It's your boy Tag from Pro Wrestling Tag. You know what I mean? As of this recording, it is 11:54 p.m. September 17, 2025. You know what I mean? I had to go all the way to fucking Brownsville for something. I'm in Brownsville now. You know what I mean? I hate coming to fucking Brownsville. Shout out to all my people in Brownsville. I got people in Brownsville, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm not really a fan of coming over here. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, I mean, I'm good. Like, I got mad people out here. Don't get it twisted. You know what I mean? I got a lot of people out here in Brownsville, but you know what I'm saying? It's a little bit murky in a way. You know what I mean? But I got people out here. You know what I'm saying? Like, shout out to all my people in, you know what I mean, Howard and Tilden and in Sethlow. You know what I mean? So one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, he wasn't my favorite, but you know, he definitely was one of my favorites. He wasn't like my favorite at the time, but he definitely was one of my, he was in the list, right? Was Bret Hart. You know, Bret basically, you know, was a guy who, like, he was a wrestler. He was what you call a wrestler's wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, you know, he didn't call himself to excellence or execution for nothing. You know what I mean? He was a great in-ring technician. You know what I mean? Like, one of the greatest submission wrestlers possibly in the history of the game. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. You know what I'm saying? And his character work as a heel in 97 is hands down. It will go out. It will be, you know, one of the greatest ever. Because he did something in pro wrestling history that never happened. Where, you know, where you're a heel in the United States, but you're a face everywhere else. Right? Especially Canada. But the one thing about Bret that kind of, you know, it rubs people the wrong way is, you know, like not only his assumption of people, but how he is outside of the ring. Right? Outside of the ring. I remember Scott Hall did, you know, like they did a shoot interview with Scott Hall one day. And, you know, Scott Hall was asked, you know, to give his overall interpretation of Bret. And he said something that I thought was, you know, it stuck with me. Even still to this day, it stuck with me. He said, when it comes down to Bret, you know, and everybody else, you know, Bret, when you go, he said he went to Bret's house and he saw a bunch of Bret the Hitman Hart memorabilia, like just everything, right? Just complete everything, posters and you know, action figures and everything for himself, like a shrine, right? It was like a shrine, and Scott Hall was like, okay, you know, like, you're a mark for yourself, but you know, like, I think that's, you know, and that to me spoke volumes because, you know, Bret, he's like, when you're a character 24/7, it's not really great. When you think of yourself 24/7 as that, like, you know, when you're the character, see, even Scott Hall said, like, when I'm home, you know what I mean, like Razor Ramon, that's, you know, that's a way. You know what I mean, when I'm home, I'm just plain old Scott Hall. Right? And I'm going somewhere with this. So basically, Bret is a guy who legit thinks highly of himself. Very, very highly. Which leads me to my topic. He did an interview today. Not today. He did an interview that actually came out, like some of the presses came out, I think, today or yesterday, where he was talking about Triple H. And he's still, and mind you, like, the Montreal Screwjob was how long? It's like what, 18, you know, like some 27 years ago? Yeah, I can't believe 27 years, goddamn. You know, like some 28 years ago. This year, I think, makes it 28, right? And, you know, he's like, the answers that he gave were very, very better. Where he was like, oh, I wish Triple H was there, you know, in the room with Vince. I would have punched him right in the face and such, you know, like, I got no respect for Triple H and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you've seen it in the Hall of Fame too, at WrestleMania. You know what I mean? And I'm like, this dude's just going out sad. Like, you're still angry. You're still angry about Triple H. For what? You know, for what? For the whole Montreal Screwjob thing, and you know, like you're angry over something that happened. You know, and just seeing him go out. Just seeing Bret go out the way he's going out. It's beyond sad, B. It's beyond sad. It's sad because, you would think that someone who's mature, someone who, someone who is, a lot wiser with the way how he speaks, you would think that he would take some of that wisdom and, apply it to himself. But no, it's the opposite. No, I mean, it's the complete opposite. Like, he still has like this, you see it with Goldberg, right? You see it with Goldberg. Goldberg, he apologized and moved on, right? He apologized and moved on. And it's like this dude he's still bitter. Like Bret, Bret is still bitter. Like, and it's sad too. It's real sad as well. Because, like, shit happens, right? And, imagine if you beat Bret in, like, basketball, right? He'll, like 30 years ago, he'll still be pissed off at you to this day because you beat him in that one game. Like, come on, man. Like, you serious? You talk about bitterness at its finest. Like, he's just going out sad, yo. He's just going out sad. He's going out really sad. I mean, who knows? Hold on real quick. There's a train coming. Yeah, sorry about that. The 3 train was just rolled by. But because I'm right here, I'm hitting up on fucking Lincoln Terrace Park. But he's just sad. You know what I mean? It's sad, like what you're seeing with homie. Like, you're sad what you're seeing with Bret, right? And now, after this, now I'm starting, of course, you start to think differently of Bret. Because, like, you're mad at something that happened how many years ago? Like, get the fuck out. I mean, this dude was complaining about stuff. I mean, this is the same guy who basically came out and said that he didn't want to lose. Now, I mean, he didn't want to lose. He didn't want to lose in Canada, right? He didn't want to do business, right? And also, like, to me, he has a more of an outdated wrestling mindset, because the more, and mind you, like, we've seen this with how many years with Bret Hart, right? How many fucking years? Like, we've seen this over and over and over, right? To the point where, like, I have a lot more respect for Shawn Michaels now more than ever. I mean, I've always liked Shawn Michaels. He's actually my favorite wrestler. But with everything that you're seeing with Bret, right, you're starting to see, who's the real mature person, who has the most common sense. I hate to say it, but I think Shawn has more common sense than Bret. You know what I mean? Shawn saw wrestling in a different way. Shawn saw, him and Triple H, they both saw, and the Clique, they all saw wrestling going into a direction of pop culture and mainstream, right? Everything that you see now, in all forms of pro wrestling, right? These motherfuckers seen it. They seen it. You know what I mean? And so, it's crazy when you think about it. It's sad too. It's sad because, with Bret, with Bret, like I said, Bret could have used that wisdom for, to provide to the others in that locker room. But man, you talk about bitterness. You talk about pure bitterness. It's just really fucking sad. It's really sad, yo. It's really sad. You're still mad about Triple H over something that happened almost 30 years ago. Get the fuck out of here. Like, come on, man. Wow. Wow. If I'm a wrestler, I would never want to be taught by Bret. Ever. Ever. You know what I mean? Because I'm afraid that if I get great with my career, he might get mad at me and still never live it down. Like, come on, man. You know what I mean? Like, Shawn Michaels put the motherfucker in his place. Right? You notice he don't talk shit about Shawn Michaels at this point. It's always about Triple H. It's about Triple H. You know what I mean? I don't think he said anything fucked up about Scott Hall. He actually praised Kevin Nash. I think he praised X-Pac as well. But for some reason, somehow, and they somehow, oh, Triple H never had a decent match. With Triple H's gimmick and how his wrestling style is, he doesn't need to have a decent match to be great. You know what I mean? Like, and I thought about this yesterday too. You know, like Triple H is a guy who, you know, he didn't really have to rely on. I mean, could he wrestle? Yes, he could wrestle, right? Just because you do, you know, just because you don't do like, you know, submissions and everything else and flips, it doesn't mean you can't fucking wrestle. You know what I mean? But the thing is, you know, Triple H is smart. You know, like okay, he could wrestle, but he wasn't like technically sound or like, you know, like he was more of a power guy, right? You know, that he was more of a finesse guy. But what he did was he, you know, like he added character troops to his wrestling arsenal, which made him fucking great. So he didn't need to, he didn't need to really do a lot of grappling. I mean, he was doing grappling, but he didn't need to go the extra mile. And I think that's what Bret Hart's, you know, I think that's what Bret don't understand. Bret doesn't understand that. And plus, Triple H is a fucking heel. You know, his entire career, he was, you know, he always booked himself as a heel, right? So when you're a heel, yeah, you're going to do, you know, extreme shit. And it's smart. You know why? Because especially during that era with, you know, the Attitude Era where a lot of shit goes by, you know, a lot of shit happens, right? A lot of insane shit happens, right? Triple H fit that, you know, and I think that's what Bret don't understand. I know he doesn't understand that. You know, like I said, Triple H was never going to give you like a 5-star match in the ring, but his character tropes, and, you know, some of the sadistic stuff that he does in the ring basically help you to get to where the fuck you need to get to, you know, in the match. And that's all that matters. And I respect Triple H for that. That's why Triple H is hands down, in my personal opinion, the greatest heel of all time. If you don't like my assessment, suck my dick. Suck my dick. Anyway, I'm about to be out. You know what I mean? I will be coming with another video later today. You know what I mean? My ass is not going out. It looks like, you know, it's cloudy as shit. You know what I mean? I'm about to hop on. I'm walking towards, I'm walking past Lincoln Terrace so I could go catch this 3 or the 4. Now I'm catching this 4. Fuck the 3. I'm catching the 4. You know what I mean? Get off of fucking Atlantic Avenue, do a little shopping, and then get my Puerto Rican ass home. You know what I mean? I'm about to be out.